All right, hello everyone. It is Tuesday, 11:34. And it's time for us to do lunch. So I'm FRAZELMA LYNN. I'm the Parenting911 Coach. I am really pressing forward to create a safe space for parents because we need a place where we can be vulnerable. We need a place where there's no judgment. We need a place where we can honestly share what's going on and how to fix it, how to help it, how to change it and make it better. We're going to talk for a few minutes about the fact that there are no excuses. And this is what I mean. Many times, um, what I see going on, and when I talk with parents, I talk with teachers, I talk with administrators as well, grandparents, the village that's there to help the child be successful. I try to talk with as many of them as possible. But what I find out is just because a child has been diagnosed with ADD or ADHD or ODD or bipolar or whatever that diagnosis may be, something on the autism spectrum, whatever the diagnosis may be, many parents use that as an excuse not to teach their children good manners, good character, just how to be good human beings. So I want you to understand that the diagnosis is not an excuse for you not to do your part as a parent. No, the diagnosis just lets you know that your child has some other challenges, but that does not excuse your responsibilities. All right. That means you actually have to work a little harder to make sure your child is not the only one that doesn't know how to control themselves, how to help others, how to be kind, how to be respectful, how to share what they have. You have to go the extra, because the diagnosis just really means your child has challenges, but that doesn't mean that your child cannot function. That doesn't mean that they cannot learn. That does not mean that academically they cannot progress. That just means there are challenges. So, as parents, too many of us just give up on trying to do anything once there's a diagnosis. We give up on trying to help them, trying to teach them, trying to encourage them. We give up on trying to create consistency, routines, and rules at home. We give up on all of that. We just let them do anything. And then this is our comeback many times. Well, he has ADHD. I understand that. No excuse. No excuse. The ADHD does not give you a certificate that says, okay, you can't do anything with him. Just let him just grow up, do anything, not learn anything, not know anything, won't be able to function in the real world as an adult. The diagnosis does not do that. So we as parents have to understand that when our children have been diagnosed with a challenge, that means we have to step up to the plate even more. Stop allowing these children, our children, your children, to just grow up raising themselves. If that were the case, they wouldn't need parents. Come on. So, as parents, we are still responsible Whether they have a diagnosis or not, we are still responsible. We are still responsible to train up these children in the way they need to go. We are still responsible. We are still responsible to teach our children how to be kind to another human being. We are responsible for that. We are responsible to teach them how to be respectful. We are responsible for that. We are responsible for raising them in a home environment that has structure. That means there are rules, there are routines that we keep consistently. They deserve to be raised in a home environment where there is discipline. And I'm not talking about beat them over the head. No, no, no. There is a good way to discipline children. Many of us wait until we're too angry and we're out of control, or we're inebriated, got some other substances going on in us, or we are frustrated and aggravated and angry with someone else, and then we want to displace that anger on the children. That's not the time to even discipline them. You don't discipline when you are out of control. Our children deserve to understand good discipline. They're going to live in this world as adults, and they won't know how to follow rules, how to keep a job, how to go to work, how to be trustworthy. They won't have any of those ethics that they need if the parents don't teach them. That's not something when you turn 18, automatically, a light bulb comes on and you know how to follow all the rules. No, not if you haven't been trained to do that. One mother said, well, my son is 10 and he's gotten so angry and I'm afraid of him. What? You're raising a child you are afraid of? That means you haven't done your part. And that means you're so afraid you are afraid to start doing it. Come on, parents. Parents have to have a backbone. Parents have to care so much about their children that no matter what the diagnosis, they still push forward to teach their children everything they're going to need to know. Remember, children already know how to be children. We don't have to teach them that. But we are teaching and training and molding them to become good human beings as adults. That starts now. That starts absolutely right now. In your home every day. If you don't have rules, you need some. You only need 3 or 4. Like, we will be kind to one another. We will always help each other do good. We will respect other human beings. Great rules. So therefore, when an argument, ensues, you can look straight at the rules that you have printed out, written out, drawn out, and put on a wall and say, number 3 says, we will respect all human beings, which includes me. You've got to have rules and you've got to have routines. It doesn't matter that they have a diagnosis. See, we have to think. If there are no rules and regulations at home because they have a diagnosis, what do you think is going to happen when they go to school with that same diagnosis? The school's not going to shut down all of their rules and regulations because your child has a diagnosis. The school still has to teach them. Come on. I mean, really? The teacher still needs to teach. And your child needs to have learned from home how to sit down in their chair. They should have already learned from home how to not blurt things out. They should have already learned at home how not to turn over all the furniture, all the chairs in the room, and destroy the classroom because they can't have their way. They should have learned that with you before they ever stepped foot into a school. They should have learned that with you, with or without the diagnosis. So stop using that diagnosis to be lazy. Your children need for you to get up and do the things necessary that they are going to need to know. You've got to teach them. You've got to train them. You've got to practice with them. You've got to supervise them. You've got to monitor them. You've got to show them how to be good people. And you've got to be consistent. Yeah, that's a word most of us don't like, but we've got to be consistent. Stop making excuses for your children. That's an injustice to our children. Right now, there's a huge, I don't know if epidemic is the word, but I'm going to use that, of too many of our children, especially boys, especially Black boys, not knowing how to read. They don't know how to read. And parents have allowed it to kind of go on, and schools, and I know that we say it's because of COVID, but you all stop using COVID as an excuse. If your child is in 3rd grade and cannot read, that's the measuring tape for reading. You should be able to read fluently by 3rd grade. If they cannot read, you need to give your child some extra help. You need to find a tutor. You need to find a program after school or before school or on the weekends. You need to make sure that you help your own child, especially if they have a diagnosis. Then you've got to work twice as hard. If your child is 5th grade, 6th grade, 8th grade, can't read, you need to get them some help, because imagine, can you just imagine going through life as an adult not being able to read? So parents, we don't have time to make excuses. Our children need us. Yeah. When I'm speaking at different school events, different districts, school district events, when I'm speaking at churches, when I'm speaking at citywide events, one of the things I make sure parents understand, we don't have time to say, okay, well, I'll learn it later, or we'll try to work on it later, or later. No, your children need it now. So we can't afford to keep putting off. And we definitely cannot afford to keep making excuses for our children. The diagnosis doesn't mean they can't learn. The diagnosis just means that there's a challenge in the learning process. And we, parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, we've got to step up. What we've noticed over the years is that education has constantly been dumbed down over the years. The things that children are learning now in the 9th grade, we probably learned it in the 5th grade. Some of the stuff that they're learning in the 11th grade, we probably already did all of that stuff in the 8th and 9th grade. You see, so the education is dumbing down, but parents, that doesn't mean we have to dumb down. One parent said, well, they don't send homework home anymore, at my child's school. And she stopped right there. I was waiting for the rest of the sentence. Just because they didn't send homework doesn't mean your child doesn't have homework. They have a parent, give them some homework. Let them read. Let them read out loud. Let them ask questions. You ask them questions. Do they understand what they're reading? Can they even read? And if they cannot, why don't you already know? So we don't have time to dumb down. We don't have time to make excuses. Our children today need us so much. They need us so much to train them all the stuff that they are going to need as adults. They need us to train them and not to walk around and act like, oh, well, he has a diagnosis. I don't care if he has 2, 3, or 4. That just means as a parent, you need to be challenging his mind and hers. You need to be teaching them, training them, practicing with them what they need to learn every day. Every day. So no more excuses. A diagnosis is not an excuse for not teaching your child what they need to know. And let me, before I close out for this session, let me say this. I understand, parents, some of you had been diagnosed with something when you were children, and no one stepped in to help you. No one showed you anything different. Nobody taught you how to handle yourself, how to manage yourself in different situations, what to do, what to say, how not to just be completely out of control. And some of you are still struggling with that. So when I coach parents, we talk about that too, because you know how it felt back when you were a child and no one was helping you, and you were sitting in class and didn't know the answers and didn't understand and acted out, and nobody helped you. Some of you graduated from school and sadly, nobody helped you learn how to read or how to manage your emotions, how to have any self-control. And you're struggling with that today. The problem with that is if no one ever taught you, you don't know how to teach your children, huh? There are some things you know how to teach them. You choose not to. Yes, there are other things you don't know how to do yet. And that's what I work with when I coach parents on the things you don't know how to do. But let's start with the things you know how to do. You know how a child needs to sit down in class at school. You know your child should not be cursing the teacher out. You know your child should not be defiant and rebellious sitting in a kindergarten class or a third grade class or sixth grade class. You know these things should not be. And the only way your child is going to get help is when you start helping them. That's it for me today. I am trying to reach as many parents as absolutely possible because we've got to change the environment of our homes. We've got to help our children. We've got to raise them so they can be good citizens as adults and know what they need to do as adults. And time is out for making excuses and not doing any better and settling for a diagnosis. Time is out for that. I am FRAZELMA LYNN. I am the Parenting 911 Coach. I rescue parents. I rescue parents who are drowning in overwhelm, who are drowning in trying to juggle life, who are drowning in burnout. And I coach them so that everyone in the house can be successful. Not just the children and not just the parents, but everyone can be successful. And it can happen. If you need to have a coach, if you know that you are the one drowning in overwhelm, and you're the one drowning in burnout, and you're the one drowning in frustration and not knowing what to do or how to help your child, go to www.parenting911.org. Set up a strategy session, just a conversation. Set it up with me. It'll be on my calendar. We'll talk about what's going on. And you be honest with me, I'll definitely be more honest with you. And we'll work together from right where you are to make things better. Parenting 911 is a safe space for parents to be vulnerable, to talk about the things that they are ashamed to talk about with other people. It's a safe space. It's not a space where, other agencies are involved. No, I'm the founder and CEO. It's a safe space for parents to really talk about the real issues, the root of the issues. Yeah, the bad, the ugly, all of that. And then to get help so that you don't stay there, so that your children don't have to live there. All right. I look to hear from you. www.parenting911.org. And remember, a diagnosis is not an excuse. Your children need you twice as much to teach them the things they need to know. Thank you all for joining me for lunch. I'm going to try to be more and more consistent with the Tuesdays, 11:30. And I will repost later on in the day because I know many of us can't even get here at 11:30. We have so much going on. So you all have a great day. I look to talk to you soon.